Hey y'all, iRick Guy here, and I wanted to do a follow-up review for the a7 III after 4 weeks of using. Now, I'll go ahead and spoil the fun here. The a7 III is the best camera that I've used to date. And again, it's considered a base model camera, yet the performance and features are by no means base in my opinion. Again, a few things that you may notice different between a7 III, a7R2, or a7R3 is that if you hold the camera body in your hand, the a7 III feels a little bit lighter. And if you look at it real closely, you'll notice that the a7R2 or the a7R3 tend to use a little bit more metal in the camera body. Is that a huge deal? That's your opinion. I think the build quality of the a7 III is great. Also, the knob on the top doesn't have the little nipple in the middle that you can use to lock the knob. But the knob requires a significant amount of force to turn anyway, so is that little nipple in the middle really necessary? For you to decide. The EVF, the LCD on the back of the a7 III, is supposedly not as good as the a7R3. Is that a problem? Again, for you to decide. What I found with the a7 III shooting primarily video such as this video, and by the way, this video is in autofocus, which that's something with the a7R2 that would have been unheard of because it would have had all that wonky focus breathing or whatever you want to call it. Not a problem with this. I use autofocus in this and don't have to guess if it's going to be good or not. And that in itself made the a7 III worth downgrading to from the a7R2. Very few times have I used manual focus on this, but I do use manual focus if there's a certain depth of field that I want to achieve. You know, if I've got a small object and I'm shooting a shallow depth of field and I want to get just a small section of that object, maybe there's text on a coin or something like that, and I want to get a particular piece of text in peak focus. In that scenario, I would still use manual focus, but 90% of the time I'm using autofocus now, and that's applicable for both stills and video. Again, this camera, a7 III, 24 megapixel. a7R2, a7R3, 42 megapixel. If you're used to snap and pray, in other words, shoot a landscape photo and hope that you get what you want and then take it in post-production and zoom in within post on a certain object, not having 42 megapixel in that scenario may be a step backwards. But if all of your composition is, right out of the camera pretty much on point, and you're not having to crop or whatever, and if you do have to crop, that's fine because this does have high resolution images, but they're not 42 megapixel, they're 24 megapixel. So, just one thing you want to take into consideration there. The autofocus, again, that's been the major win for me, and just being able to have something so small and so lightweight, and use the same Sony full frame E-mount lenses that I used for my previous a7R2 with the a7 III, complete win. Same microphone that I'm using right now that I use with a7R2, totally awesome. And check the link within this video's description because you can find the a7 III, the tripod, the really comfortable neck strap that I use for this, the microphone that I'm using now that's attached to the a7 III, the 25mm lens that I'm using right now. It's just really a rock solid bundle. So I hope that this video is of value, and again, I'll continue to post follow-up reviews because I realize this camera is in such high demand that it's sold out pretty much everywhere. But again, check the link within this video's description. You can find a place to order it. It may or may not be in stock, but check the link within this video's description. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe. youtube.com/iRick Guy. Y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, iRick Guy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.